Best Life 30, your 30-day journey to creating the best life possible for yourself. You can just watch this video, or if you want to sign up for the whole series for free and get the bonus companion worksheets that go with each video, check the link in the description below. All right, so today is day 7, and we're going to learn how you can develop the courage you need to win.
I've learned that courage is not some deep internal fortitude, that you don't dig down deep and find the courage, you know? That courage is external. Courage comes from the relationships we have with those around us. A partner in business, a personal relationship, our team, right? That's why we want to build good cultures, because our team believes in us, which gives us courage to do difficult things. A trapeze artist, a world-famous trapeze artist, would never try a brand new death-defying act for the very first time without a net, right? Now, all that courage, they're the world's greatest trapeze artists, but they need something external before they do something very dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's the same for the rest of us. So when we have someone who says, I believe in you, I got your back, even if this doesn't work out, I'm here with you.
I mentioned courage, and I would like to say something else about that. Finding courage in the leaders and in you who will become leaders. Courage is the most important of all the virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. You see? You can't be consistently kind or fair or humane or generous. Not without courage, because if you don't have it, sooner or later you'll stop and say, the threat is too much, the difficulty is too high, the challenge is too great.
When I picked up your book, the thing I loved about it is the amount of effort that you've been through to give us, I'm sure this was suffering too, like writing this book, the amount of effort that you've been through to actually give us detail on your life.
We all have different things in our life that have scarred us. We want to act like those scars don't exist. So those scars, like, if you go out and you get cut, that scar is going to be there on your arm. You can go down and look at that cut and say, or that scar and say, that happened from, I was in the kitchen, or what happened. We have the same thing on our brain. I have all these scars on my brain from growing up, from, being abused, from suffering through life, from having a learning disability, from stuttering, from having just a really bad childhood. And so all those memories, I had to cut open that scar and go into it. And that was a hard process for me to do. Not only was that a hard process for me to do, for me to have the courage to share that with people, because I'm the so-called toughest man on the planet. So they think. So for me to break open that shell and tell people, hey, that wasn't always me. It's hard to do, it's hard to do. So it was a tough process. Throughout this journey, I started becoming this new person. I started creating this new person. People started seeing me as this amazing superhero. In the back of my mind, I knew the real story. And I was like, man, one day you have to really share it. I'm like, man, but do you have the courage? It's great to live right here. I've established this. People think you're great. Just stay here. Don't go back. Let's not go back. But the only way you can help people out is let them know that this is possible. So I had to go back and say, this is where I come from.
Yeah.
And where I come from is hell.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what if you could accomplish in the world today if you weren't afraid? If you weren't afraid of what people thought of you, said about you, whispered about you, what could you accomplish? A lot more than you've accomplished today. A lot more. Why do we care what people think? Why do we care what people say? And more importantly, why do we care what people whisper? Because we have no self-worth. We have next to little self-esteem. And we have no self-confidence. And how do we get that way? Yes, mommy and daddy. Life expands and contracts with courage. When was the last courage type thing that you did in your lifetime? Walk against a red light? Whisper that your spouse, your significant other, is a bitch or a bastard? When was the last time you exhibited some courage? Some of you have to go back a long, long way. Some of you never. I said yesterday, I cannot believe that there are people in this audience that have never been spanked, never had a harsh word said to them by their parents, never got in a fight on the school grounds. I can't believe that. And you wonder why you are the way you are. Now, I'm not saying that being a high-performance person is beating the shit out of everybody, but it doesn't hurt.
Here's a stat from your show, and it says that the richest 85 people on this planet have as much money as the poorest 3.5 billion.
Yeah, right. That's on the planet, however. And that's...
It's not far off in America.
No, it isn't far off in America, but we still here don't abandon the idea that it isn't finite.
Yeah.
It isn't finite. If you were born, where were you born?
Me?
Yeah.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Baton Rouge General Hospital.
Baton Rouge.
There you go.
Louisiana. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee. I had a long haul from where I came from to here, but here we are.
Right.
So the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and here we sit at the dining table.
But it's hard to, when you say that to some people, because they say, oh, there you go with a pull yourself up by the bootstraps thing, and, you know, you're just being respectable. Not everybody can do that.
Well, everybody can. Everybody doesn't. Courage is the key to life itself. There are a lot of people who are born in situations where they say, well, I'll never get out of this. So they won't. I say to people who say, well, I would like to have done so and so and so. So, well, you could have done it. So, well, I couldn't get out of here. Man, the bus runs every day.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
If you can conceive it in your mind.
If you can think of it, you can do it. That's the human condition. If we can imagine it, we can do it.
Right.
And I think that's the condition of each individual human.
It's not enough to have a great idea and the focus and the conscientiousness to see it to fruition. You must have the strength and the resolve and the courage to pursue that idea even when the rest of the world thinks you're insane. Right? Time and time again, if you look at the stories of extraordinarily important entrepreneurs, there is almost always a moment when they are the only ones who believe in the value of what they're doing. You know, I tell in my book, the story of my book, David and Goliath, the story of Ingvar Kamprad, the guy who founds IKEA. And the crucial moment in the story of IKEA is when he faces a boycott from the other furniture manufacturers in Sweden, and he's about to go out of business. And in desperation, he moves his operations across the Baltic Sea from Sweden to Poland and sets up shop in Poland. And that's what IKEA is. IKEA is essentially furniture shipped flat made in Poland. That's the original elevator pitch for IKEA. What's interesting about that is he does it in 1961. At the height of the Cold War, at a time when East and West, communist world and free world are closer to outright war than at any other time in history, a guy living in the West, Sweden, crosses the pond to Poland, the Iron Curtain, and sets up shop. You cannot imagine what a controversial move that was. That would be like Walmart opening operations in North Korea. Literally, it's on that level of kind of eyebrow raising, you've got to be kidding me, who is this guy kind of thing. But he does it and he persists and he turns his back on all those critics. Why? Because he is a deeply disagreeable person. Didn't need people to agree with him, right? And that's how he's able to build IKEA into this extraordinary runaway success story. That's very hard to do. As human beings, we are hardwired to want the approval of our peers.
I always tell people, what you don't know can be your greatest asset if you let it, because it ensures you're going to do it differently.
Absolutely.
And when I landed Neiman Marcus, all these people came up to me and said, I have been doing this for 7 years, 10 years, 5 years. How did you land Neiman Marcus? And I said, I called them. And they just looked at me and I was like, why? What do you do? They're like, well, I go to trade shows and I set up my booth and I'm waiting for the Neiman Marcus buyer to come by. And we've been doing it every year for 7 years. I didn't even know there were trade shows.
Wow.
So sometimes just not knowing how it's supposed to be done. You have to have the courage, though, to say, even though I wasn't trained in this, because a lot of people think, well, I didn't go to school for this, so how could I possibly know? But you know, it's inside of you.
If you actually believe something in a meeting, and it might be against the grain, saying it in a respectful way matters, because in 3 years when it becomes true, the other 7 people in that room will remember that, and that may lead to the growth in your career that you're looking for. People think they grow in their career by staying within the framework of their organization. They're actually quietly, subconsciously ruining their career if they don't agree with the point of view. And I know for fact, because the best part of Cannes for me, hands down, is 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when people have so much rosé in them, they start talking truth. I know for a fact that there's a lot of people that have strategies or executions they don't personally believe in. It's just a framework of where the margin is in their company or what they have to be held accountable to a bonus. And that's a tough life in some way. And this is only just work. There's much bigger things going on. But I will say being on the record in a room respectfully of what you actually believe, brave, is a very, very good idea. And honestly, back to brave, there's so much content. There's so much going on in the world. What I think this room believes and defines as brave is actually the only prayer to break through consumer attention to make something happen in your business.
After Titanic, you had so many interesting career choices, I thought. I mean, really interesting, much smaller movies. They must have come to you and said, do this, do that, do that. And the choices you made were really terrific little movies that are not the obvious choices that you would make after that kind of a success.
Well, you know, Pete, I had to be really brave.
Yeah.
You know, I did have to be really brave, because it was a moment in time, and suddenly I was offered quite big films. I mean, suddenly a lot came my way quite quickly. And I mean, I can't even talk about the size of these paychecks. I just, and I just remember thinking, I'm honestly not ready. I still don't feel like I know how to do this. Yeah. I don't know how to act properly. I need to learn more. I can't do it. I'm not ready for that. And also, I wasn't ready to be that famous. I didn't like that feeling. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I really didn't. And I knew that I wasn't prepared to fuel it. I didn't want to follow suit with something else nothing was going to top Titanic, nothing. Right. And I was just very lucky at the time. I had some very, very good friends around me who would just say, you've got to make sure that you're doing what is making you happy. And at the same time, it was, of course, very difficult to be turning down gigantic films, because I was so lucky to be asked to do them in the first place. Yeah. And I hadn't auditioned for those. I mean, my God, I couldn't believe that.
They just call you up, come and do it. Yeah.
And so it was, I mean, it sounds terribly sort of ungrateful, but I just knew that I needed to look after my desire to learn more, and also I wasn't very experienced. I needed to be out in the world, and some of the films that I was able to do after Titanic, like Hideous, Kinky, Holy Smoke, for example, they took me into the world. You know, they took me to Morocco, into the Medina and Marrakesh, and off into the Flinders Ranges in the outback in Australia, and so I was living a life that was my life and my choices, and not something that everyone else was saying to me, are you crazy? What are you crazy? You've got to do this and you have to do that. And I was like, well, I can't, I'm not ready.
Wow.
And it was I did have to be quite brave.
One of the biggest and most surprising lessons I learned on this journey was that I just had this assumption that all these people I looked up to were fearless. Elon Musk or Bill Gates, we just assume they, have no fear, and it's how they achieve what they've done. But what I've learned is that not a single one of them were fearless. They actually were filled with tremendous amount of fear. So while they weren't fearless, they did have tremendous amounts of courage. And the difference between fearlessness and courage is that fearlessness is jumping off of the cliff without thinking. Courage is acknowledging your fear, analyzing the consequences, and deciding you still care so much about it, you're going to take one step forward anyway.
The very minute that you decide upon something, you know that's what you want, you know you're going to do it, all of these negatives that have been bothering you, they pick up their baggage and get out. They just move out. They can't live in a positive mind. Can you imagine a negative frame of mind and a positive frame of mind occupying the same space at the same time? Could you imagine that? No, you can't, because it can't be done. And did you know that the slightest bit of a negative mental attitude is sufficient to destroy the power of prayer? Did you know that the slightest bit of a negative mental attitude is sufficient to destroy your plan, whatever it is you're doing, carrying out your definiteness of purpose? You have to move with courage, with faith, with determination in connection with carrying out your definiteness of purpose.
I initially was not trying to do music at all. I mean, I came to the United States, my family came, and my parents made that choice. My mom came over to Miami, and her main thing was just like, we don't have money to get you into college, so you're gonna have to get a scholarship and you're gonna have to study your butt off. And so that was always my main focus, was just, I was like a book nerd. I was just like studying. So I didn't really think of it as a plausible thing, even though it was always my escape. You know, I would always sneak off into my room when my parents went to Walmart, and I would just like sing. But yeah, I definitely didn't think of it as a career. That was literally just like 5 seconds of bravery that changed my life, where I decided to, you know, try out for a show.
We asked Camila, what do you want for your quinceañera party? And she told me, I want you to go with me to an audition.
What do you do when you're not singing?
I would love to say something interesting, but all I do is sing karaoke and watch like One Direction videos.
If you think your life is complete, then I suggest that you're an ass. Because tomorrow always has a great opportunity in it. Your life is not complete until you close your eyes. So when you say somebody who's in a job they hate would love to be able to do this, my comment is, why the hell are you in a job you hate? Don't you have the courage to leave it? So you're in a job you hate, you're doing nothing to change it, but you'd like better.
Sometimes if they have mouths to feed, sometimes I get it. But what were the things about you? Not saying what we can, listen, we'd have to go over those specific cases, I think, and really get into each person to break them. But what do you think that were the things about you? One of it is you always had your eyes open to tomorrow and new opportunities. What were some of the other things as part of your personality? Because there aren't many people like you, but I've seen and I'm studying more and more people where amazing things are happening at 55 and 60 and putting them on life journeys that they never thought they were going to have, and I'm seeing that you guys have a lot of the similar attributes. But what do you think? What was it about you, John?
Courage. You know, the first time I went and shot a pilot for Bar Rescue was really hard. You think it's easy to scream at people on national television, to insult people on national television, to call you a jerk, challenge your marriage, challenge your integrity, challenge your professionalism? That's hard. That's not who I am. I don't wake up and embarrass people in front of their friends, in front of their family. Bar Rescue is the hardest work I have ever done. The courage that it takes for me to go out there and do these things.
Single biggest mistake I've made in my career was not spending money. It's what put me in a position to be able to buy real estate, because I had money, but I had to buy the real estate. I had to use the money. Brad Lee made a comment the other day about money. Money is not to be saved and hoarded. Like it's no good if you don't use it. This is the problem with Bitcoin. When do I transact with it, right? I'm sitting on $1 million worth of Bitcoin right now. I can't get rid of it fast enough. I can't go buy stuff with it. So until that situation is resolved, right? It's why people don't hoard gold anymore. You don't keep gold because you can't exchange it. Money is to be used. For those of you out there that are like complaining about the cost of anything, the truth is that's what that money's for. The only purpose money has is to be used. And I was scared that I couldn't produce more money. So every time I spent money, I complained about it. Today, I'm like, that's the biggest mistake I ever made. Should have been spending more money. It wouldn't have taken me 30 years. In the first 5 years, I should have borrowed money I didn't have, and I should have spent money that I did have, and I should have gone into debt to do it, to get my brand out there, to get it known. The mattress guy in your town did it. The car guy in your town did it. Whoever spent the most money, whoever put it all out there all the time, every day, on every TV, radio, and the internet, wins the battle. It's not the prettiest guy, okay? It's not. It's the guy that out-advertises you, that outspends you. It takes courage to make money.
I think the courage to be really open about those, some of the things I've been through in the past all comes from
experiencing those things. And when I was going through, when I was going through some of these things, I felt so alone. And a lot of girls or people do. You feel like nobody can understand you because a lot of these problems deal with like isolating yourself and feeling alone. And one of the things that really helped me have the courage to change was that I realized that I'm not alone. Like there's actually people who understand me, and there's people who have actually overcome this, and that gave me hope. And so that's why I really strive to give a positive message of hope about if you're not happy with the person you are today, I 100% believe that you can change. And so that's what I like to hopefully share with young girls. And I would say that's what gave me the courage to share.
Nobody has ever achieved anything big in business or in any walk of life without courage. Of course, whenever you do anything big, you do feel a little scared. But you've got to conquer fear to discover the hidden hero within you. With courage, with self-belief, and the can-do spirit, you overcome any adversity.
I want to challenge you with one word, the word that is most important for any of us to have. It starts with a C. I call it the C word. Is that big word, courage. All of us need an extra dose of courage. I remember very clearly, and as I think I could still feel the butterflies in my stomach and my stomach turning. I was 15 years old. I was in England, and they said, we are going to show you how to abseil. It looked so easy. From where I was standing, I said, I can ace that, until I got to that high point on the mountain. They harnessed me up, and they said, go. All of a sudden, the butterflies show up. I have absolutely no courage. Every ounce of I can do it was drained out of me. When I looked down to the bottom and I was trying to figure out, I have never done this. How am I going to get from the top to the bottom? It started with putting one foot in front of the others. Was I shaking? Absolutely. I even had a tear coming down my eye. But with some coaching and with a lot of cheering, I tell you, I learned how to abseil. To me, courage is not saying that you don't have fear. It's not saying that you don't have anxiety. I had to face my fear. I had to feel it, and I had to do it anyway. And that's what courage is all about. You ask yourself, can I really do this? Can I really go back to school? Can I really heal after a broken marriage? Can I really go on? We all ask those questions sometimes, especially if we've been through a storm, a financial storm, an emotional storm, a relational storm, or even a health storm. When those winds are blowing, it seems as if we're going to capsize in a sea of fear. But hang on for 1 minute. Life is made up of storms. And I've learned from sailing that it all depends on how you adjust your sails. To me, riding through the storms, getting courage, starts right here and right here.
Increase your courage. Harden up a little bit. Take a cold shower. Don't always take a warm shower. Acclimate your mind and your body to doing things that are harder. You know, one of my friends who's one of the most successful people in a young startup, but made $1 billion valuation on a company in 5 years. Whenever we're talking about new ideas we're going to do next, if I say, oh, that's going to be easy, why don't we do that? He says, Ty, there's no money in what's easy. Focus on these intangibles, you know, the ability to have a ton of courage.
Well, God wants us all to be courageous because he knows we'll face times in life and situations and circumstances that it takes more than just a desire. It takes courage. Many people operate on the basis of fear, on the basis of what other people think. We as believers should operate on the basis of courage. Courage to say no when we ought to say no. Courage to say yes when we should say yes. So what kind of courage do you have? Is yours sort of floating between depending on the situation? Or do you know the difference between right and wrong for your life? And you've made up your mind.
Why this project? Why was it so important to be a part of it?
Well, they sent me the first script, and I was just enthralled. I was like excited to find out where it went. I thought it was an exciting story that hasn't been told in this way before.
Right.
And I thought it was inspirational about breaking free, about having the courage to do something against the odds.
Congratulations on the baby girl.
Thank you very much.
If your daughter sees this, what do you want her to take away from this?
I want her to be inspired, to know a bit about American history and know about where her father's people came from, and also to be inspired that no matter what obstacles you face in life, if you approach it with courage and conviction, you can find a way out of it.
How do you get along with other VCs?
So this is funny. So I get along with them very well. So there are VCs that I really, really like. Anil Boozary is one of them, who I work with all the time on various deals. I just got off the phone with Ted Schlein, who I get along with very, very well. So there are a lot of VCs I get along with. I'm a bad cultural fit for investing. You may have noticed, and there's a good reason for this. So, if you think about the investing environment, it's this weird co-opetition thing, because you compete for deals, but you work on deals together. So you're kind of partners, but you're competitors. And I don't come from that culture. I come from enterprise software, right? Like, you know who the top dog in enterprise software is? Larry Ellison, right? Like, ain't no co-opetition in Larry Ellison, right? Like, all you have to do is mention like anybody who's close to a competitor, and it's like his head will blow off, like, and he'll go like bananas, like
speaking
at D,
of
right?
Anil, we
like,
saw that at D.
Yeah, he just went
Workday.
absolutely bananas. It's like, it's on, baby. You know, it's like, you stepped on my shit.